Good morning and welcome to this seminar on how to create more effective learning. My name is Miss Skaggs, and today we are going to touch on the subject of how we learn and go over some tips that will help us to teach our students to become more effective learners. My background is with middle school math and high school social studies classes. Tips and strategies that we will cover today can be used in any line of work or any sphere of influence. To get started, we first need to know where we are going. By the end of this session, you will be able to complete the following task: explaining the reasons why we should not just study by rereading the text or looking over notes again and again. Discuss the fact that effortful learning is difficult and failure sometimes happens, but we still need to take control of our own learning. Be able to define and explain retrieval practice, space practice, and interleaving study. Overall, the goal of our time today is to change our students' study habits. We want them to use time wisely and hopefully more effectively. Many students fall into this pitfall when they cram the night before and 2 weeks later can't tell you what they had learned. If they study, doing the same thing over and over again, like repeated reading of the textbook, they will gain familiarity with the text, but this is just an illusion that they know the material, when in fact, they have not really learned anything or transferred it into memory. Today, we want to work on strategies that will help us to help them move learning into their long-term memory banks. Knowing that learning will take effort, hard work, using time wisely, and not letting failure define us. According to the cognitive psychologist, Dr. Mark McDaniel, students are being told that to study, they need to work on concentration and then repeatedly review the material. This is not an effective or efficient way to learn. As educators, we are giving the students bad information. Students were asked how they study, and around half of the middle school and high school students said they repeatedly go over facts and key terms. When a group of university students were asked the same question, the answer was to reread notes and the textbook. The fact is that when we read the material the second time, it feels familiar, and our brains take this feeling and make us think we understand the topic and have learned the content. The problem arises when they are tested on the material and the results show that they, in fact, did not know the material. I want you to know that effortful learning is going to be a difficult process to teach. It is slow, and the students will feel like they have not learned or absorbed the information. This is okay, and you need to keep encouraging them to stick with it, not returning to the old ways of just reading the text and looking back over their notes. Effortful learning or retrieval practice will gain them so much more in the end. It is just the process of getting to the end that will cause them to want to give up. It is important to persevere during these hard times. This type of effortful learning will help change their brains and help them to create new connections, which will strengthen learning. In turn, when we model this to our students, we will help them to create a better system of how to learn. These are the types of comments that we will want to express to our students about this new type of learning. When you fail the first time, it will feel like a crushing defeat, and you will want to go back to the old ways. Failure is a part of learning. Failure only tells us where we need to go. Failure will give us the information on our areas of deficiency, and it will give us the opportunity to go back and learn it again, or in some cases, maybe learn it for the first time. Keep moving forward, and please don't go back. The end really does justify the means. We need to celebrate failure and help our students understand that failure is not the end of the story. The focus on superior learning is to teach the students to take control of their learning. They have to decide to create a schedule of when to study, take steps to create deliberate practice, and evaluate their knowledge. When they decide to take control of their learning, they will start to create a growth mindset. The belief that our intelligence is not fixed and it can change over time, that we have the capability of learning new things. Do not go into the process of learning feeling like a failure and defeated. This will create a self-fulfilling prophecy of making failure happen. We have to go into learning knowing that it will not be easy, it will take time, and in the end, we will have learned the material. Once we have helped our students create the correct mindset of learning, then we need to help them dive into practice. During practice, we need to model how to go slow and read the textbook in such a way that when we stop to periodically assess their understanding, they know how to do it on their own as well. Do they know what the main points are? Can they tell us the key terms? And can they restate the key terms in their own words? Taking time to model the relationship of what is being read to their prior knowledge. At the end of the chapter, complete self-quizzing to help identify their areas of weakness. Then helping them to focus practice on the areas of weakness and make them stronger. Making mistakes or failing is okay, but when they answer wrong, knowing they must go back and check for the correct answer. When they practice, this will cause them to create new learning, and it helps to secure the new knowledge in their memories. Every time we retrieve information, we create stronger links in memory. Now that we understand the importance of retrieval practice, we need to know how to space it out. Establish a schedule for spacing out practice is the first step. Spaced practice may be different for each person because we have to leave time to allow some forgetting to occur. We must be careful to not go too far and leave too much time and allowing us to forget all of the information. We might look at the material every day at first, then it might move to every week and even to every month. If we get to the point that we are forgetting too much of the material, then we need to practice more often. When we get to the point that we feel the material has been mastered, we can space out retrieval practice to once a month. Now that we know we need to complete retrieval practice and space out practice, the next thing is to interleave study. Interleaving study is just taking different types of problems and mixing them up together so that the brain engages in one type of learning, then has to disengage in that learning and re-engage in another type of learning. An example of this would be in math class, working with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of fractions. Each 4 types of problems have different methods used to solve them. Some of the steps may overlap or be similar, but you add differently than you subtract. If you interleave each of these problem types, it will cause difficulty in learning, but in the end, it will help us identify the type of problem and steps that are needed to solve the problem. These are some ideas that you can use to help your students learn. Have the students work on taking the main ideas and writing them in their own words. When reading the text, tell them to pull out the main points and create questions about the main points. Quiz yourself over the text or material to see what you know and what you do not know. If the text has a set of key concepts at the end of the chapter, pull those out and try to define what they are and use it in a sentence or explain the meaning in your own words. Have the students create flashcards and use them to study. A lot of publishers now have activities that can be completed online, like tests or quizzes over a section of the content that the students can access. Group work is a way for students to solve problems with the help of multiple viewpoints. We can also, when testing, make sure to give our students plenty of feedback so they know what areas they need to concentrate on in future studying. We can also teach them by modeling the process of how to learn and how to study. When I read a story to my class, I can stop periodically and check knowledge and understanding of what they have read. But I also need to explain to them that they need to do this when they are reading on their own. We will also stop in places to check understanding of vocabulary that could be new to the students. While going through both the process of checking knowledge and vocabulary, I need to remind the students this is something I expect you to do when you are reading on your own. We can also check to see if the story activates any prior knowledge of the students, modeling how we make those connections. In summary, the first thing we need to do is to discourage students from simply reading the text or notes repeatedly, since this does not improve knowledge of the material or the quality of what we have learned. The second thing we should do is to generate an understanding of the material. One way to generate this understanding is to start asking questions. We want to ask the questions why, or how, or what if, and this will help the students make connections and establish understanding of the topic. Next, we need to space out study and instruction. This is where we can take the material and cover it now and then space it out and bring it back in a couple of weeks to see what they remember. Then we can mix up our instruction instead of blocking it all together. When we mix up the instruction, the students are going to be able to retrieve the knowledge and know when to apply it to the question being asked better than if we block instruction. Lastly, we need to give quizzes to our students on a regular basis. This will help them with retrieval of information, making sure to interleave questions of material that were covered previously. These tests need to be low or no stakes quizzing and not high stakes quizzing or tests. Students will benefit the most when it is no or low stakes and they are being given the chance to retrieve knowledge and learn the material. When we interleave the questions with material that were covered in the past, this will help our students with the spaced out retrieval of material and help them know what they really remember. Thank you for your time and consideration. These are the references that I used in compiling my notes today. I will be sticking around for a while in case anyone has any questions. Again, thank you for coming and have a great day.